In 1979, one of the most successful horror, science fiction, and suspense sagas in history began. And today, more than 40 years later, the franchise continues. And it will probably continue. A few weeks away from a new installment, Alien Romulus is located temporally between the events of Alien, the Eighth Passenger, and Aliens. That is why today we review the history, the beginnings, and key moments to be able to fully understand the events that will happen on August 16th. The success of this saga is not only due to Ridley Scott, who is the first director of Alien and is practically the one everyone remembers, but few recognize the screenwriter and creator of Alien, Dan O'Bannon. Screenwriter of commercial successes such as The Return of the Living Dead and Total Recall. In 1974, Dan O'Bannon acted and wrote the script with John Carpenter for a film called Dark Star. The story is similar to Alien, a ship traveling through space with a group of people in the middle of a mission in which things go wrong. But only $60,000 budget did not allow them to achieve the best desired result. What was supposed to be a horror thriller ended up being seen more as a parody of Stanley Kubrick's renowned and award-winning Space Odyssey. Years later, the possibility of working on the special effects of what promised to be a cinematic success would arise. The adaptation of a science fiction novel, Dune. Yes, the very well-known saga today, but that would be the first adaptation. Unfortunately, problems arose and the producers canceled the filming of it. After finishing his special effects work for George Lucas in Star Wars 1, Dan O'Bannon returned to Los Angeles bankrupt, so he had to live on a good friend's couch, Ronald Shusett. And as something bad can always come out of something much better, it was there where they wrote together the story of Alien, the Eighth Passenger. As a curiosity, Daniel suffered from a strange disease that caused inflammation in his intestines. That also inspired him to create the Xenomorph, and sadly, would be the cause of his death in 2009. Dan O'Bannon himself declared that he took inspiration mainly from three works of horror and science fiction. The Thing from Another World, the first adaptation from 1951, Forbidden Planet and Terror in Space, an Italian work from 1965 with a very similar story. A spaceship, a group of people explore an alien planet where they are attacked. It is not strange, since at that time space science fiction was beginning to emerge, but the true success of Alien is not only in its story, but in its creature. And here we must mention H.R. Giger, painter, cartoonist, and sculptor of Swiss origin. In charge of the special effects of the film and giving maximum realism to the alien, the true protagonist. Since over the years, the actors are renewed, but the xenomorph remains practically with the original design. Although, to be honest, no one will match the great Sigourney Weaver. The script was presented in Hollywood to Ridley Scott, and the rest is history already known. It all begins in the not-too-distant future, year 2093. A group of scientists believe they have discovered the origin of humanity. So with the budget and resources of an ambitious corporation, led by Peter Weyland, they set out on a mission in the Prometheus to the moon of a distant planet. After several years of cryogenic sleep, they reach their destination, only to discover that the planet is nothing more than a military base, where they were experimenting with a kind of biological weapon, living organisms that have an incredibly fast development, and taking advantage of the human body, they incubate some lethal creatures. The mission ends very badly. The only living alien awakens from cryosleep, who turns out to be very hostile and attacks the remaining crew members, including Weyland himself. Of this group, only Dr. Elizabeth Shaw survives, and together with David, a peculiar android, they head to the home planet of this extraterrestrial race called the Engineers. The Prometheus spaceship must sacrifice itself against the military ship that was leaving for Earth with biological weapons. And then, the remains of that event and the first xenomorph born from the body of an engineer remain on the planet. A time jump now places us in the year 2122. The commercial transport spaceship Nostromo is returning to Earth with 7 crew members in a state of cryogenic sleep. They are awakened by Mother, who is the computer that controls the entire ship. They find out that they have left orbit and are on their way to a nearby planet where an intermittent call for help arose. Captain Dallas takes responsibility and orders to explore the place, despite the fact that most of the crew refuses and only wants to return home. So they head there and land in the unknown place after a complicated landing that leaves some damage to the ship. As we see, it is the same alien ship as Prometheus. At that same time, Dr. Shaw and David would already be on the engineer's home planet. We can see that story in Covenant from 2017.
We were finally going. Impossible to say. I'll wake you when we arrive.
The most important thing about that installment in relation to the main plot is that David was the first creator of the final xenomorph, the most perfect and lethal, after experimenting on numerous occasions with the body of Dr. Shaw. And this can be seen in scenes that were deleted from the film. In addition, he escapes in a ship with thousands of colonists and takes with him alien eggs. But this could be a plot error, since if the creature did not manage to leave that planet, how is it that in all the subsequent installments, we already know the xenomorph with its final form of development? Maybe that is resolved with the premiere of Romulus. Returning to the plot, their 3 crew members, including the captain, enter the strange ship to discover numerous alien eggs. As expected, they are attacked by a creature that remains attached to the hull. It is a facehugger, the previous organism in the development stage, prior to incubating and becoming what we know as the xenomorph. As we see, the life cycle of this alien race is quite simple to understand. When they try to return to the ship, a dispute arises, since entering with an extraterrestrial organism could pose a danger or contain some infection. Ripley, the ship's commander and pilot, wants to quarantine it and seems firm in his decision, which seems more than logical in a situation like this. But finally, Ash allows them to enter the ship. Once inside, they try to take it off, but since it is firmly attached and they cannot get it off, they cut it and discover that its blood is a very powerful acid that even melts part of the ship. After investigating more about the signal they received, they discover that it was a warning signal, not a rescue request, which only leaves more doubts in the crew about why the computer changed the ship's course in that direction. Kane seems to have recovered. The facehugger lets him go and he dies. With the ship already repaired, they set off again towards Earth. But at a last dinner before returning to cryogenic sleep, he begins to have convulsions and expels a larva from his chest that kills him instantly, and the creature escapes through the ship. In the midst of the shock of the situation, everyone tries to find her to kill her, but if they shoot her, the acid can affect the integrity of the ship, so they improvise flamethrowers to attack and defend themselves. Little by little, the crew members fall before the already developed creature. In the middle of the situation, we see Jones, the crew cat. Captain Dallas seems to have died before the alien. Then Ripley, second in command, discovers through her mother that Ash was secretly on another mission. The corporation ordered him to take a living extraterrestrial organism to Earth, regardless of what happens to the crew. This generates a dispute in which Ash goes crazy and attacks Ripley. Her companions defend her, and they beat him, to the point of decapitating him. And here it is revealed that it was an android. After incinerating the automaton, they devise a plan to get rid of the xenomorph by activating the self-destruction of the Nostromo ship, and they should leave in emergency escape capsules. Again, the rest of the crew is attacked, and they fall one by one. Only Ripley manages to reach the shuttle and finally escape with Jones. And here we have one of the best scenes where you can feel that danger. The camera angle immerses us in the situation. The destructive countdown, the acting, the lighting, and the whole setting in general leave us with one of the most climactic moments of the saga.
Seconds. 29, 28.
But the nightmare is not over. The xenomorph managed to enter the ship. After putting on his spacesuit, in another of the most tense moments, his plan is to open a hatch and have space absorb the creature. When it seems that he is going to succeed, it holds onto a cable and tries to enter through the ship's engines. But finally, Ripley activates the engines, and now it is the end of the xenomorph. Together with Jones, the 9th passenger, they enter hypersleep and go back to Earth. And the film ends. With a budget of $11 million, it had a worldwide box office of more than $100 million. It won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, and at the British Awards, it won Best Production Design and Best Sound.
The winners are H.R. Geiger, Carlo Rambaldi, Ryan Johnson, Nick Alder, and Dennis Eiling for The Alien.
Success was not long in coming, at a time when the slasher genre was in fashion, with the releases of Friday the 13th and Halloween. Alien found its place in the horror, suspense, action, and science fiction genres. The R rating, or for over 16S in some countries, was undoubtedly a success that gave them the freedom to be explicit in the scenes and conquer a more adult audience. Without a doubt, the incorporation and protagonism of Sigourney Weaver was a total success. Without it looking forced at all like today's feature films, we could say that 40 years later it continues to be a reference for how to build a good female character. And it is at the top of my tier list of female heroines in science fiction films, above Linda Hamilton and Jennifer Lawrence. If you agree, give me your like and subscription, and if not, you can leave me in the comments what place you would change or who is missing to add to the list. So this story continues immediately in Aliens: The Return. We are in the year 2179. Ripley has been asleep for 57 years.
You're safe. You're at Gateway Station. Been here.
Come here. Hey, come here.
When she wakes up, she has an interview with a representative of the Weyland-Yutani Company, Burke, a character that will be important. We learn that she had a daughter who unfortunately has already passed away. In addition, she is questioned about how she was able to destroy the expensive ship and be the only survivor. Ripley is quite traumatized by what she experienced, to the point of having very realistic and almost premonitory nightmares. Now, they do not believe the existence of the xenomorph and even blame her for what happened, to the point of accusing her of suffering from mental problems. If we look at it impartially, this beginning of the script is logical, since without going too far, these are the same questions that are asked to military or commercial aircraft pilots who perform maneuvers that end in the destruction of an aircraft. Since there is no evidence, Ripley cannot prove anything. However, we know that someone in the company must have known about the existence of aliens, since someone ordered Ash to return to Earth with evidence of alien life. In addition, the place she escaped from is now terraformed, meaning it has been adapted to human life. They explain to her that they have searched the entire area, and there is no evidence of alien presence. But almost immediately, they report that they have lost contact with the colony. Then the company decides to send a military group to the area. They offer Ripley the possibility of accompanying them and thus be able to recover her pilot's license and her lieutenant rank that they had taken away from her for those initial questions. Without having another option, she accepts and they head off to the colony. Among the soldiers we find Hudson, played by Bill Paxton, the protagonist of Twister 1997, which has its review on the channel. And there is also a new android, Bishop, played by Lance Henriksen, who 20 years later plays the same Weyland in 2007's Alien vs. Predator. Ripley's distrust of the automaton is immediate, especially considering her previous experience and betrayal. However, he assures her that it is an improved design. The main ship is called the Sulaco, and they use other landing ships to land on the planet.
Get those weapons stowed. Let's go.
Stand by to initiate release sequencer.
Down and clear.
Everything is desolate and abandoned. Upon reaching the colony, they explore the nuclear power plant and only find one survivor, a girl named Newt. There is no trace of human life, and there are some facehuggers in some containers where they take the opportunity to investigate them. They then reach the processor room, discovering an alien nest where there is still one survivor, but she only asked to be killed.
Marines, and we got a job to do. Keep it moving.
Convulsion!
At that moment, they are attacked by a group of xenomorphs and the human casualties begin. The lieutenant is paralyzed by the situation. It had already been mentioned that he was someone with little experience, so Ripley acts on her own and manages to rescue a small group that survived in a futuristic armored tank. And to make matters worse, the pilots of the ship are attacked and cause them to crash into the station and the tank. Then the surviving group can only take shelter in the colony's control center and wait 17 days to be rescued according to protocol. However, they have little ammunition to defend themselves. They try to block all possible entrances, and Ripley orders the android Bishop to destroy the facehuggers of the vessels. However, he tells her that he has orders to take them alive to Earth. They then discover that Burke was responsible for taking the Nostromo crew to explore that unknown place from the first film. Not only are they surrounded by xenomorphs is the problem, now the planet's reactor is unstable and is about to explode. Bishop offers to reach the command center through a conduit and call via remote control the main ship that was left in the atmosphere. Hoping to be rescued, they rest for a moment, but wake up with some facehuggers in their room. Luckily, they are rescued in time by the rest of their companions, especially Hicks, with whom she has more affinity. Then Ripley's anger with Burke is even greater, accusing him of even provoking the attacks to achieve that alien crossbreeding. They decide that they will destroy everything and leave Burke abandoned on the planet. In the middle of the situation, they are attacked by a group of xenomorphs. The situation is critical since they do not enter where they expected. And this scene where it is shown how they come over the roof is quite intimidating. The few remaining soldiers are falling in combat, not without taking a few aliens along the way. They even prefer to sacrifice themselves than be devoured. The only survivors are Ripley, Newt, Bishop, and Hicks. When they are escaping, the girl falls down a duct and stars. In one of the best and most iconic scenes of the entire saga, a superb play of light and camera positioning. The girl is captured by an alien who takes her to the nest. Luckily, thanks to a tracking watch, they can know where it is. Ripley is not willing to abandon her and goes to her rescue, with a bravery worthy of few. Since without being an expert soldier and having barely learned to shoot, she does not hesitate for a second. When she enters the interior of the facilities, she meets the Queen, a female xenomorph of a much larger size that has the ability to incubate more creatures. She manages to find Newt, and they head towards the ship before everything explodes. Before leaving, she begins to burn all the eggs she can. This decision is questionable, as it only provokes the fury of the Queen who had initially let her go alive. In addition, everything was about to explode, so they would have died anyway. In another memorable escape scene, the tension is at its highest, and when everything seems lost, they are rescued by Bishop driving the landing ship. When they reach the main ship, Bishop is destroyed by the Queen, who has managed to enter and is enraged. Then Ripley, using a forklift suit in another iconic scene, manages to get rid of the creature by expelling it into outer space through a hatch. Now, they connect to hypersleep heading back to Earth, and the film ends. With a budget of $18 million, the film grossed more than $130 million, a true commercial success. This second installment was directed this time by James Cameron, and he managed to maintain the suspense, drama, and terror at the height of the saga. As for the statuettes, it took 2 Oscars for Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects. In the same category, it won at the British Awards. It should also be noted that Sigourney Weaver received her first nomination for Best Actress, in a genre where it was not usual to receive this type of recognition. Usually, the protagonists of dramatic films were the norm. This only confirms that a good female character does not have to be the most powerful, the strongest, or the best pilot to stand out. A character with depth, with fear, but that does not paralyze her, but quite the opposite. In addition, the group of soldiers feels competent. They are not the typical generic group that dies one by one. Special mention is made of the fact that they are Marines, better prepared than the rest. And this is noticeable when shooting. Since they do not miss, they defend themselves. They manage to kill quite a few xenomorphs. They are well equipped and there is no time for jokes. This gives it realism, and they are defeated because they are outnumbered, and the alien is an especially lethal creature. Something important that we see in this installment is the change in the design of the xenomorph. James Cameron's team changed the special effects director for Stan Winston, an artist of North American origin specialized in makeup and animatronic design. And so that we have an idea of the level of his work, he was in charge of the following works: Terminator 1 and 2, The Predator 1 and 2, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, Jurassic Park, and Iron Man, among others. Something that has been criticized about the film is precisely the change in the design of the creature with respect to the first film, and if there is a logical reason within the Alien universe. Precisely the new installment Romulus that is between this 60-year period where we know nothing can clarify many doubts. If you liked the content, a good like and subscription is appreciated to continue creating this type of content. If you want more summaries and analysis of the next installments of this fantastic universe, leave it in the comments. Until the next video.